All right, this lesson is actually the very beginning of our college algebra level lessons. And so from now on, these will be categorized as section, number, and then title. So this is section 1.5, and the technique that this is going to be talking about is factoring. So if we start out and we talk about an overview of what we're going to do in section 1.5, we're going to be solving quadratic equations by a variety of techniques. Each one of these will be discussed in a separate video. The first one is factoring, and that's what this video is about. So, question number 1 says, use factoring to solve the quadratic equation. Check by substituting or by using the graphing utility. We will investigate graphing utility in a later lesson. But as we talk about factoring as a technique, I want to remind you that if you have A times B equal to 0, then the zero factor property says that either A is equal to 0 or B is equal to 0. And that is the theorem that we'll be using as we use factoring. So problem number 1, we're going to solve this quadratic equation. Quadratic equations can always be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, with a requirement that a cannot be 0. If a were 0, then the x squared term would not be there, and it would be linear. Now, it does not say that b has to be a number other than 0. So if b is 0, this term is missing, but that's okay. It doesn't say anything about c. If c is 0, this term is missing. So that may happen, but in order to call this a quadratic equation, we must have a squared term, and we do. Our technique of factoring, we're always going to get the equation equal to 0. Now this first one, I have x squared minus 4x minus 45 equals 0. I'm going to factor the left-hand side. This is a trinomial with no greatest common factor. The last sign is negative, so I'll do 1 plus and 1 minus, x and x. I need factors of 45 that have a difference of 4. Okay, I think everybody should be thinking 9 and 5, and I'll put the 9 with the negative and the, 5 with the positive. Now, I'm going to use the zero factor property that I referred to right up here. So, if the product of these two factors is 0, then either x plus 5 equals 0 or x minus 9 equals 0. Solving this, I'll subtract 5 from both sides to get x is negative 5. To solve this one, I'll add 9 to both sides to get x is 9. Now what this wants, in your first blank, you will put in this part, and then in the second blank, you will put in these two. All right, so I will fill in x plus 5 times x minus 9. The order of those factors does not matter. The signs matter. The 9 has to have the negative, but x minus 9 can be the first factor. Then the answers are negative 5, comma 9. So it's as if my math lab is saying, hey, stop right here and put this in, and then give me the answers. All right, let's look at number 2. Solve the equation by factoring. Because I see x squared as the high power, that's its degree, I know that this is quadratic. I need to get it in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. I need it equal to 0. So I have x squared equals 7x plus 18. I need to subtract 7x from both sides. I need to subtract 18 from both sides. By doing that, I will get a 0 on the right-hand side, and I'll have x squared minus 7x minus 18 on the left side. Now, it doesn't matter which side, but I strongly, strongly encourage you to get that x squared to be positive. So if it's already positive, move these two terms to this side to join it. All right, so, whoops. The first thing that it wants is factored form. I know I need 1 plus and 1 minus. I need factors of 18 with a difference of 7. That would be 9 and 2. The 9 needs to be negative. The 2 is positive. So I can type those in. Once again, the order doesn't matter. And then it says to give the solution set using the zero factor property. Either x plus 2 is 0 or x minus 9 is 0. You can probably do this in your head by now. X is negative 2 or x is positive 9. It should not matter at all which order you enter those solutions. Quadratic equation, degree 2, that means 2 answers. Let's look at number 3. Solve the equation by factoring. It is quadratic. It is equal to 0. So those are really the first two things I always check. Is it quadratic? Is it equal to 0? If it is, I'm ready to go on. So copying this down, I have 8x squared plus 10x minus 7 equals 0. It is a trinomial. Now I may do trial and error. I may error. So I'm going to be ready for that. My leading coefficient is not a 1, so I know that for the coefficients of the x's, it could be 1 times 8 or it could be 2 times 4. For the constant, it is definitely 1 times 7 because that's a prime number. I need, and I'll erase these in a minute, I need my outers and inners to have a difference of 10. So I can do this any way I want. I think I will start with 2 and 4 and 1 and 7. If that's not right, I'll change my 1 and 7, and if that doesn't work, then I will X out 2 and 4 and move on to 1 and 8. So what I'm going to do, 2 and 4, first with 1 and 7, and then if I need to, 7 and 1. If that doesn't work, I move to 1 and 8, 1 and 8 with 1 and 7, 1 and 8 with 7 and 1. Something should work because otherwise this problem has no solutions that are rational. The outer product here is negative 14x. The inner product is positive 4x. Well, that's very close. That gives me a middle term of negative 10x. I am correct except for my sign. So this needs to change to plus. This needs to change to minus. Now I would have positive 14x and negative 4x, and that would give me the right middle term. So once I have done my trial and error, then I use the zero factor property. Either this factor, 2x minus 1 equals 0, or 4x plus 7 equals 0. These require just a little bit more work. I could add 1, maybe do it in my head, and I get 2x is equal to 1. Divide by 2. X is the fraction 1/2. Or, on the second one, subtract 7. 4x is equal to negative 7. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. X is equal to negative 7/4. So, to answer my questions, it asks me to, first of all, enter the factored form. So I will enter 2x minus 1 times 4x plus 7. Remember, the order doesn't matter. And then my solutions are 1/2, comma, negative 7/4. Be careful when you're entering fractional values in my math lab, because you will have done a fraction here. Your cursor will most probably be down here. Get out of the fraction using either the right arrow key or the tab key so that your comma is not in the denominator. And that's just something you have to be careful about with my math lab. Problem number 4. It asked me to solve this quadratic equation. Well, it is quadratic. Oh, but it's not equal to 0 yet. Perhaps you can see that this term needs to move to the left, and this term needs to move to the left, and you will get a new equation that is 4x squared minus 21x minus 49 equals 0. And you would subtract 21x from both sides to make that happen, and subtract 49 from both sides to make that happen. So I'm going to come down here and say 4x squared minus 21x minus 49 is equal to 0. All right, last sign is negative, so I need one positive and one negative. I'll put the x's in. Now, to get a 4, it's either 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. And to get a 49, it's either 1 times 49 or 7 times 7. Those are my only choices. So let's try 1 and 4 and 7 and 7. All right, that would give me an outer product of negative 7x and an inner product of 28x. And if I subtract those, I get 21x. So maybe I'm seeing a few things that my experience allows me to see, so that I started with 1 and 4 and started with 7 and 7, and those turned out to be the right choices. But I'm not ready yet because my sign is wrong. I have created factors that would give me a positive 21x. That means that this needs to become negative, this needs to become positive. That would give me negative 28, positive 7, which is negative 21. So those are correct now. Let me erase. So now I'll use the zero factor property that says either x minus 7 is equal to 0 or 4x minus 7 is equal to 0. I can see that x could be 7 is a solution for this part. Over here, add 7. That will give me 4x is equal to 7. Divide by 4. X is 7 over 4. So to answer the questions, I have factors x minus 7 times 4x plus 7. Now I'm not sure whether my math lab would count this one incorrect, but I did not include it because it is supposed to be implied. Now my two solutions for my solution set are 7 and 7/4. And I made a mistake. Please, you're probably waiting for me to catch it when I copied this down. This was plus. That means that's minus, and that's minus. All right, so I made a copying error from here to here. So I hope that is nice and corrected now. Number 5. All right, once again, I'm supposed to solve a quadratic equation. It is quadratic. It is equal to 0. I don't know if you're noticing this, but it's supposed to have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and I do not have a constant term, but that's okay. So let me write it down and show you why it's okay. 2x squared plus 16x equals 0. Solve by factoring. Well, there's a GCF here. I know many kinds of binomials that I can factor. One of the techniques I use is greatest common factor. So if I factor out 2x, 2x goes into the first term x times, 2x goes into the second term 8 times, and that equals 0. That the zero factor property says that either 2x is equal to 0 or x plus 8 is equal to 0. Divide by 2, x is 0, subtract 8, or x is negative 8. So my factored form is 2x parentheses x plus 8 close, and my solution set is 0, comma, negative 8. So it is fine to use greatest common factor. If the greatest common factor does not have a variable, if this had only had a common factor of 2, the zero factor property would have said, well, 2 can't be 0. But the greatest common factor had an x as part of it, and x can be 0. Let's move on. All right, the next problem looks a little more complicated. It still says to solve by factoring, and it appears to be quadratic. There's the quadratic term, but right now it is pretty far from being equal to 0, so I need to work on that. I have 3x parentheses x minus 3 close equals 10x squared minus 13x. I want this side, the left side, to become 0 because my x squared over here already has a positive coefficient, and that's important to me. So let's simplify over here using the distributive property. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 3 is negative 9x, and that's equal to 10x squared minus 13x. Since this is the bigger one and it's positive, I will subtract 3x squared. I will add 9x. The left-hand side has become 0. The right-hand side is 7x squared, and it's minus 4x. Now I'm supposed to use factoring. I see a common factor of x. X times 7x, x goes into 4x, 7x squared, 7x times, minus 4. Now I will use the zero factor property. That means that either x is 0 or 7x minus 4 is 0. So there's an answer. Over here I will add 4 to both sides. 7x is 4. Divide by 7. X is 4/7. So my factored form comes from this line. It is x times 7x minus 4, and my solutions are 0 and 4/7. Once again, I have that common factor, but it did have an x in it, and when you have a common factor with an x in it, you're going to get 0 as one of your solutions. Number 7. Solve it by by factoring. It is a quadratic, but it's not equal to 0. So I will rewrite it as 5x squared minus 34x, because I subtracted the 34x, it came over here as negative, minus 7 equals 0. Looks no GCF, but it looks like trial and error. 1 plus and 1 minus. x and x. Well, all I have to get 5 is 1 and 5, and all I get for 7 is 1 and 7. So I'll go ahead and put in the invisible 1 and the 5, and the invisible 1 and the 7, and I check. The outer product is negative 7x, the inner product is positive 5x, and that's not even close to being negative 34. So I will move and put the 7 here and the 1 here. And by the way, if I had that as a dotted 1, it shouldn't have been. Let's see what we get now. I have an outer product of negative 1x and an inner product of 35x. That gives me 34x. I have not been very lucky with my signs. Each time I do this, it seems like my signs are wrong. I need negative 34x. So this will become minus, and this will become plus. Now my outer product is plus 1x. My inner product is negative 35x, which is negative 34x. So my factors are correct. Using the zero factor property, that says that x minus 7 is 0, or 5x plus 1 is 0. So x is 7, or let's see, 5x would equal negative 1. Divide by 5. X will equal negative 1/5. So my answers are 7 and negative 1/5. And I'm not sure why the change, but they did not ask me to type in the factored form, so I didn't. Let's take a look at number 8. All right, this is quadratic. It is equal to 0, so I have 2x squared plus 10x is equal to 0. And I have a common factor of 2x. That leaves me with x plus 5 equals 0. That means that 2x equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0. Divide by 2. X is 0, or x is negative 5. 0, negative 5. Remember, when a common factor involves the variable, you will get x is 0. So if I had a problem like 2x squared minus 8 equal 0. This is just another example problem. I want to show something that didn't show up in these problems. It is quadratic. It is equal to 0. So if I'm going to factor it, I see a common factor of 2. So that's 2 times x squared minus 4 equals 0. This binomial factor, still quadratic right now, is the difference of squares. So I can keep my 2, and I have x plus 2 times x minus 2 equals 0. Now the GCF here was a constant, no x in it. And if I started to say 2 equals 0, that makes no sense. This is not the factor that's making this product equal 0. So although it seems odd, it's totally irrelevant. Just ignore the 2. And you would say x plus 2 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. The fact that these are 2's and that was a 2, that was just a coincidence. So x would be negative 2, x would be positive 2. And this GCF, although it made my factoring easy, it had nothing to do with the solutions. All right, so practice factoring is a technique for solving quadratics.